Alright, yeah, and welcome back to some more Magic Duels with the third and final episode with our mono-red Fling combo deck. So, let's get into the changes, shall we? You may notice that I can't actually connect to the server right now. The game's been having weird connection issues, so this video might be a little late based off of that, but at least I can record the intro and the deck changes for this week. So, I really found that this deck is a tough one to make cuts in. Everything that I cut felt painful to do so. But I'm going to be testing out the Lupine prototype. So it's a 2-mana artifact creature. It is a 5/5, which is pretty sweet. However, it can't attack or block unless a player has no cards in hand. Now, I think this is actually perfectly reasonable in this deck. It's a cheap artifact, so it triggers off the Fireweaver. We can make it even cheaper as well with our Foundry Inspectors. And we can even crew it with our Smuggler's Copter if we can't attack him with it. But what I have noticed is there are a lot of times when we actually are empty-handed, or it is at least possible to be empty-handed. So I think maybe swinging in 4/5 pretty quickly isn't too bad at all. So I think it's worth a try anyway. If it's not, then we'll probably go back to the old build. So the cuts that I've made, I ended up cutting a single implement because I couldn't think about what else to cut. So the cycling between the implements may have gotten worse, I'm not sure. This is the thing where it was difficult to cut, because if you cut too much then it upsets the balance of the deck that was already working, so, you know. And since we were going with the Lupine prototypes as well, I wanted to make sure that anything in hand was castable without regret. So I ended up cutting one of the later insults. So we've actually got one insult and one onward. Onward being the one that actually has a double strike in it. I couldn't decide which one I favoured more in this deck, because technically Onward and Insult kind of do the same thing, except for Insult has Injury on the back, which we can use, but at the same time Victory also does. If we can cast both on the same time, then we're going to be doing a stupid amount of damage. But the Onward works with the Fling, but so does the Insult. The Insult works with Pierce Revolution, but Onward doesn't, so there's sort of a 50-50 scenario where one of these is better than the other half of the time, so couldn't decide which one to cut, but I knew that I had to cut one of these 3-mana spells, because otherwise the Lupine prototype is more likely to sit in the battlefield not doing anything, except for crewing Smuggler's Copters, so that is the choices that I have made. Not sure if it's going to work or not, but we're going to give it a try nonetheless, so if it doesn't work, then probably go back to the old build, to be honest, because I think it was working fairly consistently. Possibly even go up another Fling, I'm not sure. My concerns with drawing too many of these are still a real thing, so I'm not sure. But that's the build we're going to go with. Let's see how it does in the games, and I will see you there. My god, this game is running slow today. Right, we've got Mountain Crumbling Vestige, we've got 2 Renegade maps, so we've essentially got 4 land hands. It's better than some hands, I suppose. We'll keep it. Could do with some thing to do with the artifacts, so either a Fireweaver or a Ravenous Intruder, because we do have Fling in hand this time, so there's no need to worry about drawing it. Just have to find the 3 of Ravenous Intruders now. Our opponent is on a fat stack and is struggling to decide what lands to play. It's probably a very, very strong struggle in a deck that size, because you might never see any more lands, so you got to get the right ones down. Alright, ooh, turn 1 Bomat Courier. Okay, yeah, sure, why not? This seems like a hand we can get empty-handed very quickly with, so let's swing in for 1. Sooner we get our hand lower than the number of cards underneath the Bomat Courier, the better, I guess. Might just get burnt away though, because he is in red. Very real possibility. But next turn I think we Vestige, map, and map. That way we can thin out our deck a little bit as well. Ruthless Sniper. New card, I guess. When you cycle discard a card, you may pay 1 if you do put a 1/1 counter. Yeah, alright, Bomat Courier isn't long for this world. Because he's probably going to be discarding to hand size. Okay. More lands. Yes, we'll play Inventor's Fair instead then. Go Renegade map, Renegade map. Got no way of getting past this guy, so no attacks. We only have to attack in with the Bowmat Courier at some point though, so if we get down to one card in hand, then we're going to be better off for that. Opponent goes with the lifelinky Vampire Envoy, that's its name. 1/4, gains a life when it attacks. Essentially drains if it gets combat damage. And our opponent gets in for 1. They're putting up some very high toughness creatures, which is very annoying for us, but they are very low power, so it buys us time to build up our combo. As it stands, an intruder would be pretty stupid here. I'm going to take this opportunity to thin out our deck though. An extra land out. I think I'll save the other map just in case we do draw into a Ravenous Intruder. Oh, when you call them, you call them. Alright, Mountain and Ravenous Intruder, and then we'll play an Implement. We'll be on 4 lands next turn, so we can sack, and play the Servo Schematic and Fling. Depending on what our opponent does, that could be pretty good. That'd be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 damage. 13 total with the Intruder. So if our opponent taps out, we can hit them for 13 and then Fling for the win. But Corpse Hauler means that that is not going to happen. Still, we can buy some time. We could chain implements together perhaps as well. That is also a possibility. If we draw another implement, then that suddenly becomes built to smash. Okay. Wasn't going to do that in response to me blocking. I think was the correct play to do, but you know. Whatever. Because I could have blocked there thinking that I would just negate 1 damage and then he would have forced me into sacking my stuff. But I suppose he doesn't particularly know what we're doing anyway. We get a key to the city, which is going to make our Ravenous Intruder unblockable. Now we are cooking. Alright, key to the city. And then we'll play a Crumbling Vestige on red. Play Servo Schematic. We win next turn if Ravenous Intruder survives. And if he has Burn, I think we can still win through that as well, because we can sack in response. Shall I attack him with a Bowmat Courier? Nah, it's an extra sack target, I suppose. Right, we either win or lose right now. Oath of Liliana makes us sacrifice a creature. That is going to be our Servo token. So 1 red mana is Shock, Fatal Push. Essentially it. Right, if our opponent doesn't have a 1-drop to kill our Intruder, well, they're dead anyway, I think, even through that. Opponent sacks and kills our Courier. Well, I might as well sack it in response. It's tapped out, so I could block. However pointless that actually is, but... Alright, it's time to win. We gain 1 life. Gain a land, so we don't even need to tap the key to the city, but I'm gonna. Maybe. Perhaps. No, let's just start sacking. Sack the implement, because we might need the land. Not anymore, because we're not going to draw anything like that. Alright, sack that. It's tapped out, so... Go as high as we can. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That be lethal right there. Swing for 11. And then once combat damage is dealt, fling at our opponent for 22 total. Fling. Kill that. You are dead. Hurrah. Nice. And this is probably the menu saying I'm going to disconnect right now because the servers are really slow today and I've been struggling to get a game for ages now. Anyway, without further ado, let's go on to the next game, shall we? I will see you there. Alright, 10 minutes later and we're back in the game. Oh, that menu was indeed trying to disconnect me. So we got turn 1, Renegade map. Turn 2, we can crack the map and get a land for the Fireweaver, and then we can start playing some of our artifacts, which is pretty sweet. I think we'll go with this. Hissing Quagmire for our opponent. Okay. Could be -1/-1 counters. It could be Delirium. Could be Super Friends. Who knows? We could play our Renegade map anyway. I'd rather get the Fireweaver on board than get a damage in with the Bowmat Courier. That might just die to a fatal push. Looks like it is definitely Delirium. Okay. Doesn't get played that often, does Crop Sigil, but it's alright, I suppose. Right, crack the map. Get ourselves a Minton. Play the Minton. And a Fireweaver. All of our artifacts now deal damage to our opponent. So next turn, if we don't draw a land, it's just Servo Schematic. If we do draw a land, it's Servo Schematic and Bowmat Courier and getting him for 2 if our opponent doesn't have a blocker. Which they probably do. Delirium has some pretty cheap creatures. Like that one. He has to put a counter on itself. And if you have Delirium on our upkeep, he gets to put a counter on something, so gotta work fast. Opponent currently has instant only in their graveyard. I actually like Renegade map over the Servo Schematic here because it deals 1 damage to our opponent but also gets us to that 3rd land drop, which means we can Foundry Inspector, and maybe if we draw an Implement we can do some cheap things. Yeah, let's do that. It's the same amount of damage anyway. And the same amount of attackers, so I believe that would be the ideal play in this situation. Let's not swing in, because there is no point. Our opponent mills again. This time hitting Planeswalker, so they've got 2 to their 4 Delirium necessary. Graph Harvest. Okay, so zombies have Menace, and you can exile a creature card from your graveyard to make a zombie. Reeve Soul on our Fireweaver, so bye-bye that damage. It's fine, I suppose. We've got Smuggler's Copter to put some pressure back on the board. Opponent gets on with 2 damage. Reeve Soul, sorcery speed, so it will not touch our Smuggler's Copter, which is why it's bad in this current format. Nobody plays it anymore. Okay, so we can actually do a few things here. Crack our map, get ourselves a mountain, thin our deck, play said mountain, play Smuggler's Copter, and then we can play the Implement as well and get in for 1. And then we can use the Bowmat Courier from that point forward to actually crew up our Smuggler's Copter and complete the combo. Just waiting on our Ravenous Intruder since we have Fling in hand. Might be Pier's Revolution next turn, I'm not sure. Depends on what we draw. If we draw another Implement, then maybe it's actually Foundry Inspector, because we can play Foundry Inspector plus the Implement. But maybe it's just Pier's Revolution anyway, so that if we do play the Inspector, if it dies, we get some value off of it at the very least. Opponent plays Haunted Dead. Comes in and makes a Spirit Token. And gets him for 2 again. Okay, so they've got land, sorcery, Planeswalker instant. Delirium is now online, so this guy's going to be putting counters on things every single turn. Unfortunately. And you can also crack the Crop Sigil now to return up to one target creature or land. Okay. Puts a counter on the Spirit token. Sure. Well, there's the implement that said we'd Foundry Inspector if we drew, but I think it's still Pia's Revolution here. Yeah. Let's do it. And crew up with Bomat Courier. Swinging for 3. Not sure if we loot here. I suppose we best loot anyway. But we might just end up discarding what we loot. It's another Pia's Revolution. Yeah, we'll dump that. Don't need 2 of them. Make me very sad if our opponent has enchantment removal though, I suppose. That being said, maybe it was a good idea to keep it, because if we did play the Pia's Revolution and we drew a land, we could actually sack the implement and our opponent would give us it back or take 6. Okay, our opponent's doing Dark Salvation to kill our Bomat Courier, so they're going to be paying 3 life to do that. And they get a zombie out of it as well. Do you want to give us it back or take 3? The Menace is going to be a bit of a problem. Opponent gives us it back. Okay. Really hoping for a Ravenous Intruder here, because we can actually play Foundry Inspector, Implement, and Bomat Courier next turn. So that's enough artifacts on the field. We also get to get in with our Smuggler's Copter since our opponent has attacked in with their Spirit. We are down to 10 though. Our opponent has 8 power on the board, 10 with the Hissing Quagmire. Another Implement. Okay. Foundry Inspector. Bomat Courier. Implement. So we win to drawing a Ravenous Intruder, I think. I know we're 1 land short, actually. Well, crewing up. Yeah, we'll crew up with the Bomat Courier because we could block the Skinner, so that might actually hold our opponent off from attacking us. Swing in for 3, do a bit of looting. There's our Intruder, so we win to a land drop then. If we don't die, of course. Alright, pass the turn. I am going to block with the Foundry Inspector. If our opponent does swing in with everything. Can't block that, can't block that. We're taking 5. 6, 7. And then if he wants to attack in, we block there. So we're taking 7 if he does his Crop Sigil. It's a close one. It's always a close one with this deck. That's what I've found. We always win on the last possible moment. Gets a land and the Corpse Trawler thing. I think it gives Death Touch to zombies. So this is like Delirium Zombie Hybrid. Makes it interesting. I think... Okay. Sure. No blocks, because we can't. That buys us a little bit more time, perhaps. We also get a loot with the Smuggler's Copter if this is not a land off the top. Our opponent gets to put counter. And I believe we just won. Okay, so... Ravenous Intruder. Sack the Implement. Do you want to pay 3 or gives it back? So what we can do, if they do have Fatal Push and they target us, we just... Oh, there's another one. These are free to play as well. Yeah, we just sack in response and fling at our opponent then. And sack that. Do you want to pay 3? Because this is adds an additional cost as well, so they can't kill it in response to the fling because it is part of the cost of it. So it's not something they can combat, trick and counter out of us. So our opponent's essentially giving us infinite damage with the Ravenous Intruder right now. And infinite card draw, of course. Sack that implement. We could keep going forever until we mill ourselves out. But at this point, we just fling and kill our opponent. Not in the colours to counter this. And we win. Awesome. Awesome. Let's go on to another game. Alright, we have 2 lands in hand. Beaumont Courier on turn 1, Smuggler's Copter turn 2. We can start looting away with that. Maybe if we get a 3rd land, we get Pier's Revolution and the Foundry Inspector down, and we can start doing some stupid stuff. Plus, Insult with Pier's Revolution is dirty, so let's do it. Mountain, Beaumont Courier, get in. Let's bust a move. Get a card underneath the Beaumont Courier for later. Got quite the expensive hand though, so I don't see us getting empty-handed too quickly. Especially with 2 lands in hand. We may end up needing to loot to find lands. So this might not be our final hand. I'm not sure what we discard. I guess Insult is currently the thing to discard since it has some value in our graveyard. And we don't need to anymore because we have Ether Hub. So play Mountain. Swing in first. See if our opponent has any combat tricks. Probably not. And I doubt they'll fatal push this just yet. They'll wait till we're tapped out and we can't do anything about it, I guess. And we'll play Smuggler's Copter. Pass the turn. Next turn it's either Pier's Revolution, or if we get ourselves an implement, it's possibly Foundry Inspector plus that implement, since it's free. Ooh, Trial of Ambition makes us sacrifice the Beaumont Courier. Okay. It's probably Foundry Inspector in that case, so that we can crew up the Smuggler's Copter. I think the looting value off of that is pretty sweet. We get a fling. That being said, I don't really want to get rid of any single card that's in here at the moment. So I guess we'll Pier's Revolution just to set up a future turn where they might actually kill our artifacts and then we punish them for it. So don't want to loot away the fling. The fling always costs us games if we don't find it. And Insult's pretty sweet as well, although it does things in the graveyard, so it might possibly be a thing. Oh dear. Hanway Garrison's going to get out of hand quite quickly. We get land. Okay, Mountain and Foundry Inspector. I think we pass the turn, threatening to block his garrison. We also get a loot off of it and burn our opponent when it dies, if it dies. Another swamp for our opponent. Hoping their hand is full of double red cards so that they can't do anything. That would be the ideal thing. Gets Bontu, the Glorified. Alright, this is the one that's... Oh, hang on. That's a menacing cycler, is it? Whenever you cycle or discard, it gets +1/+0. Opponent gets in. We're going to crew up and kill it. Don't know if our opponent considered that or not. I'm going to loot. Ravenous Intruder is pretty awesome, so we'll get rid of the Insult because injury in our graveyard has value. Can kill this guy if cycling or discarding is really a thing. So Bontu, I think, only attacks or blocks if a creature died, which is interesting. So we can play Lupine Prototype and Ravenous Intruder this turn, get in with the Copter. Do we maybe get in with the Copter first? Just to see what we draw. I guess so. Let's have a gander. Might end up just looting it away anyway. But it gets us further down our deck. And we kind of need loads of artifacts as well. Another Foundry Inspector. Makes Lupine Prototype free. Ah, but... getting rid of our combo by doing that. No, I don't think it's worth it. Down to 15. Play Ravenous Intruder. Lupine Prototype. Can't attack or block right now, but if we can, empty our hand. This is the main concern that I had with the Prototype, is that we're going to be holding onto a Fling until we're ready to use it. So this maybe doesn't get too much value in, but the counterpoint to that is we can just use it to crew up the Smuggler's Copter whenever we want. So, does our opponent have a way to kill a creature this turn? So they can get in with Bontu. Menace and Indestructible. Inferno Fist is a way to kill one of our creatures, depending on where they point it. Oh, he can... yeah, he can sacrifice a creature and scry. Oh yeah. Didn't consider that. Didn't even read that part of the card. So our opponent gets in for a fair amount of value here. I don't think I'm... well, maybe actually. If I go... oh, we can... he's Menace, isn't it? Yeah, there's no value there. We can't block. Take 7. Down to 10. Opponent leaving a single human back to do his bidding. Our opponent's tapped out though, so maybe we go for injury, deal 2 damage to this and 2 damage to our opponent. So they can't Inferno Fist any of our stuff. And then we can play the Ether Hub holding up Fling. Can also loot as well. Alright, I think we're gonna injury. Kill this guy. 2 to you, so we can get in for some damage. Or damage. Down to 14. We can then Ether Hub, go 3, 5, 7 damage, Fling for 14. That's game. Sack the Intruder. Deal 3 to our opponent if they don't give us it back. If they take the burn damage, then I'm very confident we're going to win. Yeah. Sack Smuggler's Copter. There's no way that I can screw this up anymore. So, sack Foundry Inspector. Gives us it back this time. But that's 7 damage, 14 total with the Fling in hand. That's going to be game. Opponent had quite the start, but we had quite the finish. As is tradition. Fling the Intruder at our opponent for 7, and that's game. Alright guys, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. So tomorrow I'll be coming out with a brand new combo deck, so be sure to check out the channel for that kind of thing as well. And I'm going to put a straw poll in the video of that, in the comment section of that video actually. I want to ask you guys a question, but I'll save it for then. So if you did enjoy the content anyway, be sure to like and subscribe for some more Magic Duels content in the future. tomorrow being the next one. And hit that little bell icon as well right next to the subscription button, and it'll notify you when I release a new video. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will see you tomorrow, guys. Bye bye.